So, Sally, please go ahead.
Pomme, Pomme.
Sally, Pomme, please go ahead. Introduce yourself. Tell us about
Okay,
what you do, and then
all right.
tell a
Just
story,
mute
please.
your mics, everyone, otherwise the sound will distort. So, welcome to London, and it is a great honour to be part of Eric's Chennai Storytelling Festival and also to speak to you at the Chennai British Council. And I can see you all in your beautiful chairs. Thank you for having me. I know I've got a short time, so I will begin. And if there's any time later, you can ask me some questions. Once upon a time, it was a cold night, and three brothers were sitting around the fire. Ivan was the youngest, and he loved poking the ashes of the fire. The brothers lived with their father. Their mother had died when they were young. Ivan was sitting, poking the fire. He would dream over the flames. Flames would glitter. He would see creatures, spirits, stars. As he poked the ashes of the fire, a coal sparked up and turned golden. And Ivan said, "Hey, look, brothers! That coal looks just like a golden castle, shining with light. One day I'm going to marry the princess that lives within that castle, and I am going to be king." And his two elder brothers, "Don't be crazy," they said. "Look at you. You are covered with ashes. No princess is going to want to marry you. You're just an ash lad." And from that moment onwards, the two elder brothers called Ivan Ashlad. Ivan's brothers, as soon as they could, they got jobs and they bought fine, beautiful clothes, magnificent horses. But Ashlad stayed beside the fire, poking the ashes, dreaming over the embers. And then their father fell ill. Doctors were called, medicine was given, but the father did not get better. He took to his bed and he stayed there. And then one day he called his sons to his bedside and he said, "Sons, if I die, I want you to promise each one of you will come and sleep one night by my grave and bring me some bread." "Okay, Dad." And the second brother said, "All right, Father." Ashlad said, "I promise." Not long after that, their father died. He was buried in the churchyard and his soul was free. One evening, Ashlad was poking the ashes of the fire and he remembered. He said, "One of us should go and sleep by father's grave. Take him some bread." And the eldest brother said, "Don't be crazy. We have inherited this house. Father left it to us. Why should we go to the churchyard where it is cold when we can stay warm by the fire?" And the second brother said, "And we inherited all father's money here when we can go to the inn where there's wine and girls." And then they turned on Ashlad and they said, "If you are so keen, you go." And they pushed him out of the front door and they hurled a loaf of bread at him. And then the two elder brothers pulled on their jackets and they went down to the inn. They bought a bottle of wine and they looked around for some girls. Ashlad walked. There was a full moon in the sky and he sat by his father's freshly dug grave. A mist came down, midnight chimed, and then The ground began to shake. The grave broke open, and a bony white skeleton flew up into the air. "Is that my eldest son?" said the skeleton. "No, Dad, your youngest son, and here's the bread." The skeleton took the bread with his bony hand, put it into his bony mouth. "That feels better." And the grave closed over his head. And Ashlad put his head asleep, and his sleep was sweet. The next morning he went to the house, and his elder brother said, "Did you see Dad?" "Yes." "Ugh." And the second brother said, "Did he eat the bread?" "Yes." "Ugh." That night the second brother said, "I am not going to a churchyard. Ghosts and spirits." "Yes," said the two brothers, "if you're so keen, you go." And they pushed him out of the front door. They hurled the loaf of bread. Then they pulled on their jackets to the inn, and they poured out their wine, and they sat down next to two girls. Ashlad went to the churchyard. He sat by the grave. Midnight struck, and then there was a rumbling sound. The grave cracked open. A bony white skeleton rose up into the air. "Is that my second son?" "No, Daddy, it's your youngest son. Here's the bread." The skeleton ate the bread. "It feels better." And the grave closed over his head. Ashlad fell asleep, and his sleep was sweet. The next morning his elder brother said, "Did you see Dad?" "Yes." "Did he eat the bread?" "Yes." "Ugh." In the evening the elder brother said, "I've had my turn." And the second brother said, "I've had my turn. I wonder whose turn it is tonight." "Ashlad." And they pushed him out of the front door. They hurled the loaf of bread, and then the two brothers pulled on their jackets. They went down to the inn. They poured out their wine, and they put their arms around their girls. Ashlad went on his own to the churchyard. Grave. Midnight struck, and the grave broke. The bony white skeleton flew up into the air. "Is that my youngest son?" "Yes, Father, it's me. And here's the bread." The bony hand put the bread into the bony mouth. "That feels better." "My youngest son. The only one. Brave enough to sleep by my grave. I'll give you a gift." And the bony skeleton reached down into the grave and pulled out a box of matches. "If you are in trouble, strike a match." And the grave closed over the skeleton's head. And clutching the matches, Ivan put them in his pocket, fell asleep, and his sleep was sweet. The next morning he woke up, and the grave was covered with white blossom. Ashlad felt happy, and he picked some mushrooms for breakfast. And he went home, and his brothers were not around, and he began to fry the mushrooms when his brothers came downstairs. They had a terrible headache, from drinking all the wine. "Did you see Dad? Did he eat the bread?" "Yes." "Ugh." "Where have you been?" said Ashlad. "We know about kissing," said the eldest. "Do you?" said Ashlad. "We know enough about kissing to know how to satisfy a princess, and the princess wants to be kissed by an ordinary man, but by a man who can leap from the back of his horse to the tallest tower and kiss her on her ruby red lips, and one of us is going to do the deed. Well, can I come? Said Ashlad. You, they said, look at you. What a mess. You've got sticks in your hair, mud on your boots, you're covered in ashes. No princess wants to be kissed by a dustbin. And then the two elder brothers combed out their hair, put on their finest clothes, leapt on their beautiful horses and rode away. And Ashlad put his hand in his pocket. And what was there? The matches. Not many. He walked into the forest. He struck a match and he held it up. It glittered and gleamed. And then he heard horses' hooves, a drumming and a rumbling, and a huge black horse galloped towards him with sparks flashing from its hooves. The black horse, coal black, came right up to Ashlad and nuzzled him in the neck, and the flame went out. And then the horse spoke, and Ashlad understood its speech. Climb into my right ear, climb out of my left ear. That's impossible, said Ashlad. Climb, climb, climb. And so Ashlad did. And I don't know if Ashlad was small and the horse was tall, but Ashlad climbed into the horse's right ear, climbed out of the horse's left ear, and he was clean. He was wearing fine new clothes, polished, brand new leather boots. He was clean and handsome. Hold on tight, said the horse. The horse carried Ashlad over the border, between boulders, over bridges, all the way to the palace. Ashlad joined a queue of young men waiting to kiss the princess. At the head of the queue were Ashlad's two eldest brothers. They were showing off and boasting, and they didn't recognise Ashlad because he looked so different. Then there was a trumpeting sound, and the king stepped out onto the balcony. Well, my subjects, thank you so much for coming. Many of you long distances now. I want my daughter to get wed, but she doesn't want to marry an ordinary man. She wants to marry the man who can leap from the back of his horse to the top of the tallest tower and kiss her on her lips. And the guests looked up and up and up, and there was a tall, very tall tower, and right at the top a little window opened, and the princess looked out. She had long black plaits, rosy cheeks, ruby lips, a diamond ring flashing on her finger. She lifted. It's so high up here, she said. You'll never make it. Goodness, I won't have to kiss any of you, and as for marriage, never. And she dropped the handkerchief and it fluttered down to the ground, and as it touched the ground, the king said, off you go, and he pointed to the eldest brother. The eldest brother galloped around the courtyard. Beneath the tower, he pulled a whip out of his belt, and he began to thrash and beat his horse. It whinnied, leapt into the air as high as the door. Next, said the king. It was Ashlad's second brother. He pulled some spurs, spiky bits of metal. He attached them to his boots. He galloped around the courtyard beneath the tower. He stuck the spurs into the horse's flank. It whinnied. It began to bleed. It leapt into the air as high as the balcony. Useless, said the king. Next! One after the other. The young men tried, one after the other. They all failed. And then it was Ashlad's turn, and he looked up and up and up. I'm just an Ashlad. I won't even try. And he turned the horse to go. But the coal-black steed began to gallop around the courtyard. Golden sparks flashed from its hooves. Faster, faster, beneath the tower, the horse leapt into the air. Sparks flashed, flames flickered, it leapt past the door, past the balcony. Black smoke streamed from its nostrils, fire flickered from its tail, up and up and up, higher and higher. The horse flew, coal, black, smoke, flames, sparks. The horse hovered in the air. Ashlad was looking into the face of the princess. She was very surprised. She leaned out of the window. He was quite handsome, and Ashlad leaned over the neck of the black horse. She was beautiful. He leant towards her. Mwah! He kissed her on her lips, and it was sweet. And the princess was so shocked. She raised her hand, and she took her diamond ring, and she scratched it across his forehead. Ow! Ow! That hurt! Well, why did you do that? But before the princess could answer, the horse was leaping down. Coal, black, smoke, sparks, flames, down to the ground. Stop him, said the king, but it was too late. The horse carried Ashlad into the forest. Climb into my right ear, climb into my left ear, climb out of my right ear. Ashlad did. And he was covered in ashes, sticks in his hair, mud on his boots, and the horse vanished. Ashlad just had time to race home, get an old rag, tie it around the wound. Ow, it hurt. Came back. Ashlad poked the fire. Did you kiss the princess? He said. Kiss the princess, said the eldest. That was an impossible task. It was some kind of trick, said the youngest. The man who did it, he was the magician. Ashlad looked at his brothers. It could have been me, he said. You, said the eldest. The only place you're going is the churchyard. But the princess could not forget the man who'd leapt so high. Who was he? She wanted to see him again. The man who had kissed her. And so she sent out an invitation. All the young men who tried to leap were to return. When the two elder brothers heard that, they combed out their hair, they put on their finest clothes, and Ashlad said, Can I come? They said, You, look at you, covered in ashes. You'll only spoil things for us. They climbed on their horses and rode. And Ashlad put his hands in his pockets, and there were only 2 matches left. He walked to the palace. By the time he got there, the throne room was so filled with young men, there was no space for him. But he crept into the fireplace, and he crouched down in the ashes of the fire. Then there was a trumpeting sound, and the princess appeared. She was holding a golden goblet of sweet red wine. I'm looking for something, she said. I'm looking for something special. And she went up to the eldest brother and she offered him a sip of wine. And as he sipped, she looked at his forehead. She swept back his hair. No, sorry. She offered the wine to the second brother, and as he sipped, she looked at his brow. No, it's not you. She went round the room, offering the wine, looking at foreheads, brows, sweeping back hair. Sorry, sorry, not you, not you, not you, looking for her mark. And then she saw Ashlad crouched in the fireplace, and she offered him the wine, and as he took it, she unwound the rag. She unwound the rag, and underneath, on Ashlad's, was a scar in the shape of a diamond ring. And then suddenly, the scar on Ashlad's forehead burst open, and a golden light shone from his brow. A golden light shone on his forehead, filling up the whole room. Papa, this is the man. This is someone special. And the king cross, oh my dear girl, I don't think so. The man who kissed you, he was clean. Up all the ashes fell from his clothes. Your Majesty, can I go and clean myself? Said the king, my daughter wants to get wet. Ashlad ran into the forest. He took another match. He struck it, held it up. It gleamed and glimmered. There was the sound of horses' hooves. There was the coal black horse. Climb into my right ear, climb out of my left ear. Ashlad did. He was clean and very, very handsome. He rode back to the palace, through the courtyard, right into the banqueting hall. And everyone was there. And they saw Ashlad, clean, sitting on the coal-black horse with a golden light shining from his forehead. And the princess went and stood beside him. Never felt so happy, she said. This is the person I want to love. And so there was a wedding, and everyone was there, and they were all dressed up, and you were there as well. And why waste any time? It was the most wonderful party, except for the two elder brothers. They sat on the edge and they watched. They watched their youngest brother living in a golden castle shining with light, married to the princess within it, going to be king. Ashlad came beside them. Where did all this come from? His brothers asked. Ashlad said, from father's grave. And the two brothers wished with all their hearts that they had poked the ashes of the fire, that they had dreamt over the embers, that they had slept by their father's grave. Thank you for listening, everybody. I hope that you could follow it.
Very quick.
That's quite amusing poem.
Thank you.
Such a wonderful story.
Thank you so much.
I would like to open it for any comments. If anyone wants to share something.
Shall I say a little bit about the story?
Please go ahead.
The story is my creation from various sources, which is a mixture of Scandinavian and Eastern European and Russian and Middle Eastern and Central Asian. There are so many echoes with other stories, but fundamentally what I love about it is it's a reverse Cinderella. So it is a male Cinderella. Any questions? Thank you for listening. I hope you could follow it.
I love the going through here and going through there. That was beautiful.
Yes. Yes. Do you think it's about, to me, that's about listening, that magic happens when you listen? Or perhaps the imagination as well. Thanks for your point, Gustavo.
Thank you, Pomme.
Goodbye, everyone. I will be watching, but I'm going to turn my camera off now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.